I've got an unusual hobby. I've been recording my dreams for 20 years, writing them all down in dream journals, ever since I was 13. In this video, I'll show you what I've learned. It all started by scribbling down the first dream on April 8th, 2004, a dream where the Pope died. And then that got me thinking, and I started to draw these creatures, various monsters from nightmares. So I decided I should start making a journal. With over 6,300 dreams recorded in the course of over 3,800 days, if I count the still ongoing 2024. The process is simple. I wake up, write down quick words and sentences, then before I go to bed, I decipher my writing. Some dreams I remember for days on end, some I need to think hard on. A few words often jog my memory. Then before I go to bed, I write down the dream, and the cycle has continued for 20 years. Although I wrote down the dreams sporadically for the first 3 years, some of them are slips of paper that I wrote down elsewhere or online. Everything was unstructured. After all, I was a young, long-haired teenager who didn't care so much about this at the time. The interest exploded in 2008 at high school, and I promptly bought this book. I would eventually write out every single dream in the years to come, as if my brain was much more active, noting down the nights as well as how many different dreams within each night. Over the years, they become much more complex, with their own titles as well as colorful drawings. As you can see, there's so much more detail in them. Some of them are just small notations, those that I can't barely remember. Especially these ones, they are quite fun. These are obviously written when I came home from the pub, and other times it feels like you've been part of a lifelike experience that lasted several days, fusing small stories that reflect current events in the world, as well as events happening around me. In 2014, 10 years ago, I decided to take this a step further. I went through the journals and noted down every single individual who had appeared in my dreams and wrote down their appearances, separating in 3 categories: people I know, celebrities, and fictitious people. Appearances by people I know is a very large list. Over 1,100 people that I personally know have appeared in my dreams. In terms of people I know, then the rundown is very obvious. At the top are my friends and family. They have appeared in hundreds of dreams for many years. Although it's interesting that my old best friend from elementary school, whom I have not seen for 14 years, still pops up on a regular basis. He's currently on the 6th place. The brain is weird that way. The same goes for my old mates from the heavy metal band we started when we were teenagers. They also appear quite frequently, often in dreams where we suddenly have a comeback performance despite not playing together for 13 years or something. Obviously, I dreamt a lot about my high school friends in high school, but they obviously stop appearing on a regular basis. With the exception of those, I am suddenly back in high school and have to take a test dreams. I often dreamt about my army buddies when I was in the army, my college friends in college, work colleagues at work, and so on. And sometimes, some people get one cameo. Like if I am at a party with a lot of people I don't know, I might dream about that the following day, and those people who I barely remember might make an appearance. The list of celebrities. As of now, there's over 400 celebrity appearances. Just to name a few, you have Winston Churchill, ski jumper Annette Sagen, Kevin Bacon, Napoleon Bonaparte, Tonya Harding, Pope Francis, Marilyn Monroe, Oscar Schindler, Alicia Silverstone, Al Gore, Johnny Knoxville, as well as those that appear more often like chess world champion Magnus Carlsen, the King of Norway, Barack Obama, and Donald Trump. Trump has appeared in 16 dreams and ended up in the election dreams back in 2016, as well as the night he won the 2024 election, in a dream where both of us had to battle for a presidency in an arena. Not a fight, but a Beyblade match. Beyblade, Beyblade, let it rip! Let's fight! I think that can be quite fun because the brain might assemble a fun variety of people. Like in 2021, I dreamt I was in a quiz show with Judi Dench, Patrick Stewart, Saoirse Ronan, and Sir Ian McKellen. There's also a tendency of gruesome people to appear more often. I've never dreamt about Gandhi, Buddha, or Jimmy Carter, but I have dreamt about Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, Stalin, Adolf Hitler, terrorist Anders Behring Breivik, the Zodiac Killer, Mussolini, and Vidkun Quisling. Some of the more obscure celebrities on the list include the Czech performer Ivan Mladek, former director of the FBI Robert Mueller, football player Erik Torstvedt's son, the boy from the Freia logo, Einar Førde, Ace from Kiss, Hide the Pain Harold, Norwegian host Ragnhild Sæltun Fjørtoft, as well as the woman from the Columbia Pictures logo. Fictitious people is a bigger list. Over 660 characters. They include pretty much everyone from Seinfeld, Harry Potter, Star Wars, even the holiday special, Lost, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Dragon Ball, The Office, Lord of the Rings, Friends, Full House, Breaking Bad and The Simpsons. But you also have Laura Palmer, Wally from My Dinner with Andre, all the Seven Dwarfs, Gorn, Joe from Nymphomaniac, Reverend Manders from Henrik Ibsen's play Ghosts, original title Gjengangere, Death from the Seventh Seal, Peter Petrelli, El Topo, Setsuko from Grave of the Fireflies, Mr. Bean, Anton Chigurh, who in one dream led the Russian Revolution and pierced my entire body, and Nicolas from Hélène et le Garçon. I also have a list of places. As you can see on this world map, which is a rough estimation on where the dreams have taken place. In real life, I've never been to North America, but a lot of dreams have taken place there. And obviously, there's a lot of activity going on in Europe. It's very fascinating to look around. I've also been to places I've never been to, such as the stadium from the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver, South Korea, Vitim Bridge in Siberia, Burma, on the top of Mount Everest, or the planet Saturn. Fictitious places have also appeared, such as Hogwarts, Tatooine, Emerald City from Wizard of Oz, one of the chambers in Portal, Moomin Valley, Middle-earth, and the island from Lost. In fact, since I have a big obsession with Lost, those dreams popped up a lot. Sometimes it's fascinating how real life is incorporated into a dream, like the classic dream of your alarm clock being incorporated into the dream. For instance, on October 10th, 2007, I bit my tongue in my sleep, but in the dream I put scissors through it instead. The same goes for your physical state. Fever dreams, as they are called, can greatly affect your dreams. One I particularly remember was when I was some sort of god arranging nebulas in whites and colors to the tune of Beethoven's 7th Symphony, particularly the second movement. But it's also interesting to see the differences, where the physical outer world don't align with your dreams, how your physical movements in real life are not how you imagine in your sleep. You know how hard it is to run in your dreams. Over time, I feel like I've gotten better at it, and every now and then I get lucid dreaming. Dreams where you are aware that you're dreaming, and can manipulate the events to your own will. My problem with those is that I often wake up too quickly during them. And it's also interesting if you're a musician and try to emulate those skills in dreams. Have anyone tried that? I play drums and sometimes piano, but in dreams it's so much harder. Even if you have your hand movements there, you manage to mess up. After a while, I noticed that I created some sort of system, various rules that only exists in the dream world and that appear every now and then. For instance, I've had several time travel dreams, but there's a specific rule to it. It's connected to home video. For instance, if there is a home video from Christmas 1995 on a videotape, then I am able to time travel to Christmas 1995 and do whatever I want, but only for the duration of the tape. This is a repeating pattern. Looking back, it all becomes a time capsule to my subconscious. Most of the dreams reflect real life. And as you can see when I go through the pages, there's a lot of mundane and trivial dreams reflecting the previous day or the upcoming day. They can get distorted and take on a different direction. With significant events in real life, I can almost predict that I'm gonna dream about them the next day. For instance, the solar eclipse of 2015, or just dreaming about Christmas on December 24th. So that's a nice pattern. However, there's some bizarre stuff every now and then. It's quite fun to look around, and here's some notable dreams, some very short and some very cinematic and long. I was trapped in Josef Fritzl's basement and had to get away from various Saw-style traps before Fritzl came back. That included opening up a lot of deodorants and solving contraptions, using a lot of the Norwegian soda Solo. A dream where I was trapped in the file hosting service Dropbox. Obviously, a lot of dreams in high school involve the school, your friends, and sometimes they get more explicit. Apparently that one door down the corridor outside my classroom was a solarium. The only condition was that you had to be nude and the room had to play the military march national emblem on a loop. Do you ever do that? Create hidden rooms or corridors or even streets that appear later in other nights? My dream world often do that. The student society in Trondheim is notorious for its many rooms and stairs, so obviously my dream world always creates a hidden chamber or an underground subway station or something like that. The same goes for when I moved to a large house in 2019, a shared place which was a bit weird. Of course it ended up having secret rooms, and this got expanded for as long as I lived there, to the point that it was like a maze of corridors and rooms, and I can vividly remember everything that used to be in the secret area. I drove a motorcycle, even though I don't know how, and crashed into a red house owned by the Trinity Killer from Dexter. He didn't live there. The current occupant was Woody Allen, who was furious because I broke his fence, leading a lot of animals into his garden. I had to fix the fence while Woody Allen chastised me while looking into the camera. I was chased by Norwegian terrorist Anders Behring Breivik through the woods, and then I cornered him. I started to tickle him. Turns out he's so ticklish, he turned into stone. This wasn't the first dream with this serial killer. A year later, in another dream, our most popular airline used him in commercials, saying we are really sinking low in prices, while handing out plane tickets to Pakistani families. Remember when the world was going to end in 2012 due to the Mayan calendar? Apparently I had to go into this capsule taken out of 2001 A Space Odyssey and blast at a giant blue beam at the bottom of the ocean to prevent Armageddon. I remember this dream being so lifelike. I remember the sounds and atmosphere. It was like the whole thing was shot by James Cameron. There were many perils down there, such as a big 6-legged giant tortoise, which I had to shoot. It almost used up all my ammunition, but I got past it. I used all my ammunition on this enormous beam. Then I got up and in turn saved the world. But when I went to the changing room, I looked into the mirror and I was suddenly black. That's a weird side effect. Well, in the end, I shook hands with Barack Obama. It turns out that there was a hidden bookcase door in my apartment that led me into the world of American Hustle. However, if you slept with Amy Adams, you'd awaken Smaug. Well, that happened, so he ended up sneaking into my apartment, but he was mostly interested in checking out my DVD collection. And then we talked about Troll 2 and how much he wanted to see Oldboy. Me and chess world champion Magnus Carlsen suddenly got trapped in West Side Story. I was in the middle of the woods on my way to a cabin where I was attacked by a bear. I kept looking past him to see if Leonardo DiCaprio was around, since this was the bear that attacked him in The Revenant. I had to fight him off with a M1 Garand rifle, but luckily a masked wizard came by. He took off his mask, and it turned out he was a Maya, just like Gandalf and Saruman. But suddenly, a dollar bill kept flying and hit his eye, and we were suddenly transported within that eye, where Bart and Marge Simpson were sitting and watching. I was in the house from Darren Aronofsky's mother and had to defend it from villains. The people on my team was Gandalf and Darth Maul. Zombies came charging in, and they had help from Leatherface, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, the Wolfman, the Blob, and even Dr. Manhattan. It was crazy. However, some heroic people came in a small van and made us hide there. It was the boys from Dawson's Creek. They saved us. The dream was scored by James Newton Howard. It's weird that I remember specifically that this was the case. We drove away through a cornfield. We walked out, met the alien from Science, whom I defeated by rubbing an onion on him. But then we met Goombas, Wario, and Popeye. After a while, we found the cabin, which had a futuristic elevator, guarded by one of the guys from Men in Black. Down in the cellar, a girl explained that this war happens once a year. An alien adventure where me and David Bowie faced with some aliens arriving in Latvia, and the aliens looked like dinosaurs with some purple glow, but then they all turned into polar bears, and the real reason for their earthly visit was to taste the delicious taste of Coca-Cola. A new Cloverfield movie had come out, but in this one, the Statue of Liberty is alive, and she's pissed. Also, by the time I had gotten to the 2020s, the sheer length of the dreams had diminished. Maybe it's age, Maybe it's a slight loss in interest. Writing a dream journal seemed like a bizarre and fun activity in my teens and 20s, but then it dwindled down a little bit. However, there are some interesting patterns. For instance, my old middle school got torn down after I graduated, and I've been in a new building many times due to band practice and other things. But every time I dream about the school, it still has the old look. In my dream world, it adheres to a certain guideline, a certain time period. And time again, it has always looked the same. Well, kinda. In most dreams, I've added a third floor, one that goes up like this, which is the teacher's lounge. And this has appeared in multiple dreams, but I've never dreamt about the new school. Another thing is that I also like the dreams I have when I'm on vacation. As you can see here, for some reasons they always become so much more plot driven. I guess it's because I'm in a new bed and the daily routine has been broken. What's interesting is that they often gather elements from that specific place, just like last year's Rome trip included some places I had been to and some I had created in my head just to connect some things together. The dream world creates connections between the various places you don't know about. World War III broke out and I kept looking around in my apartment. In real life, I've got this replica of Sting, so I went out and used that one to run through the woods, getting chased by poachers from Hogwarts Legacy. I hid in a partly flooded conference room. Butters and Peter Griffin were also hiding here. But then I was cornered by Gary Oldman's character from Leon the Professional, and he sent his assassin after me. I ultimately got killed by Liev Schreiber. So that's a couple of fun dreams. I could go on for ages. There's thousands of dreams here, but I'll stop right now. You might wonder, what's the point? It's definitely a niche hobby. Writing a dream journal has been a fun way to look back at my thoughts and feelings. Some dreams have acted as wish fulfillments, many are too personal to share here, but it's interesting to see how certain events and people, some even fictional, represent an idea, a wish fulfillment that either happens or doesn't. Sometimes a good day can turn into a nightmare, or a good day can continue on in the dream world, like the awesome 17th of May 2017 that just simply rolled into a new adventure when I went to bed. Obviously I don't bring my dream journal when I'm sleeping over in a different place, so I'll write down what I managed to remember on my phone or something the next day, and then I write it later on. When I was in the army, often I did not write in the journals until the weekend, and I tried to write everything I could remember before we all had to rush out of bed and start doing our tasks. Or when I went hiking in the wilderness for 3 weeks, obviously I did not bring my journal, but I had some pieces of paper that I wrote on. And then I pasted them in much later like this. Therefore I've managed to keep this niche hobby alive for 20 years, serving as a fun reminder of the past. Going through the pages, it's fun to see that I dreamt that several people I knew got the swine flu back in 2009, and then I had dozens of COVID-related dreams in 2020 and 2021. Or how dreams about World War III usually happens when I've finished something, like in big transitions in your life. As a movie buff, it's fun to see anticipated films being in my mind prior to release, or when I watched the movie last night, it transitions into the dream. Although I'm very happy Nymphomaniac dream stopped after I had seen it. Nobody should dream about Nymphomaniac. It's fascinating to see impossible scenarios blend with real life events. It helps me think and relax and broaden my creativity. Most of the time it's just small notations, and other times it's these wild adventures, often being consistent with your deepest desires and fears. For instance, I can't swim, so of course if I'm in the water, I'll always drown in my dreams. The dream world doesn't show mercy, but that's what's so fascinating with the world you're creating in your mind, which only exists there and nowhere else. It feels tactile and sometimes very real, and as a movie lover, sometimes the dreams have a soundtrack, like the Poetic Dreams of Flying Turtles, which was scored by Ryuichi Sakamoto. These stories only exist in your head unless you actually put it into words and drawings. You can always look back at your past through photographs and videos, but there's no photos or videos of your ideas, aspirations, obsessions, values and thoughts. This is at least one way to look back at your subconscious when stressful or happy situations get symbolic treatments, or when beautiful moments are prolonged and twisted in your dream world, or when your new thoughts and ideas come from dreaming about them. Writing a dream journal for 20 years has served as a time capsule, a journal into my inner life.